This episode of the Flush Podcast is made possible by North Dakota Tourism. Start planning your fall hunt in North Dakota at legendarynd.com. My guest today is Jason Babinchak. Jason and I hunted together last fall on a variety of lands in North Dakota. One particular piece is called Mallard Island. It has been on my bucket list of hunting destinations for many years. Stick around. We'll explain why. Welcome to another episode of the Flush Podcast. I'm Travis Frank. I'm your host. Brandon Morton is our producer. Today's guest comes from one of my favorite places on earth, the wide open prairies of North Dakota. Jason Babinchak, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks, Travis. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. So this week, our television show features the hunt that you, myself, Brian, your buddy, Brian Guillory, and eventually Birds, Boods, and Buds podcaster Tyler Webster joined us as well. Tyler was the one who actually introduced me to you and Brian. And the reason he introduced us together is because for the longest time, and I don't even remember how many years, but it's been a long time, I've had this desire to go hunt out on an island in the center of Lake Sakakawea, the Missouri River, the reservoir known as Lake Sakakawea. It's massive, massive. And in the middle of it, there's a wildlife, I believe it's a wildlife...
It's a wildlife management area. It's part of
Yes.
the Wolf Creek Wildlife Management Area.
Gotcha. Yes, that's what it was. I just wanted to verify that. So the whole thing is open to public hunting, and North Dakota Game and Fish manages that property for hunting and fishing, strictly hunting and fishing. But everybody that I talked to, Jason said, yeah, you don't want to go out there because it will kick your butt. And you told me the same thing, except you said, I'll go with you, though. In spite of trying to talk me out of it, I talked you into going, you and Brian. How long have you been hunting on Mallard Island?
On and off, probably for about 10 years. I think the first year I ever hunted was in 2004 or 2005. And the lake, the reservoir was down a lot then. And you could actually walk across. You could walk from land all that way that we boated. You could walk across that. And so it was a little more popular then, but it also helped the game and fish tremendously. I know in 2008, they brought a whole bunch of equipment over that they normally can't, because normally they have to bring stuff over with barges. But they brought even some bigger, heavier equipment over and did a massive overhaul in 2008. And then since then, they've taken smaller equipment. They actually have equipment on the island, but they, like you said, I'm sure you'll get into it, they have food plots and everything, and it is strictly managed for wildlife.
Oh, I mean, and as we found out, I think one of the lines I said was like, it's almost too perfect for the wildlife in many scenarios, because the way that the tree rows are set up and the food plots, I mean, they outsmarted us a lot more than we outsmarted them. But the entire island. So basically, to set it up, Lake Sakakawea is massive, massive. But on the far southeast side of the lake is where Mallard Island sits. And I want to say we probably had about a mile. Maybe, is it a mile to get out there from mainland?
The route that we took, it's about 3/4 to a mile across the water. And then we probably went to get into the bay where we went. We were probably about a mile and a half by boat.
Yeah. And that's
roughly.
Crazy to think that there was a time when you could walk to it, because I'm thinking it was over 30 feet deep, the water between shore and shore from one piece to the other. Yep. So that massive reservoir, how far does it fluctuate water level wise?
That I'm not sure of, but I know it's been up and down 50 feet that I know of, but I don't know. That was quite a few years when we were in the drought and stuff, but we're pretty much in a wet cycle now, so it's pretty high right now.
Okay. Yeah, it's set up perfectly for somebody that wants to go on an adventure. And when we hunted it, I think we were looking at somewhere around 5 below 0, something like that, temperature wise that morning. We just gotten a dusting of snow that night before, and there were can you put a number on how many snow geese were out on Sakakawea that day?
No, just when we left the cabin, we must have had roughly 200,000 to 300,000 birds flying around that were coming off the lake to go feed. And I would guess between where the cabin was and where we drove around to Mallard Island and then we were going across the water along there, I would guess between 750 and a million snow geese that we saw throughout that day.
Right, right.
Just
Yeah.
roughly.
I think that's one of those things that it's impossible to put
It's
a
hard
number
to
on.
describe.
Exactly. It is. It's one of those things where unless
Right.
you are out there experiencing it, you just can't really fathom just the sheer power of the migration. It's a beautiful thing. And so, if we wanted to, we had talked about, okay, should we duck hunt in the morning? And then, we could put some decoys out there and then we could hunt pheasants in the afternoon on the island. But you kind of have to make adjustments when you when you get into these situations, because we had planned this trip and it was early November. It was the first couple days in November, but last fall was brutally cold at the beginning of November. So basically everything in North Dakota froze. All the potholes were frozen. Sakakawea was the only last piece of open water, which meant that all of the remaining waterfowl that was still to migrate south, that was stacked up out there, and basically our hunting plans really changed based on the weather. I mean, we were looking at that, like I said, I think it was somewhere around 5 below temperature wise, and then you had a nice strong wind on top of it. So, needless to say, we were the only ones that were wise enough to head out on a boat. I brought my fishing boat out there, so it's doable on a fishing boat, obviously, but you do have to play the weather. I got a 20-foot Lund fishing boat, and so it was cameraman Brian, Jason, and myself. And then, do we have 3 dogs out there that day?
Yep, we had Brian's one dog, and then we had my dog, and then we had the foster dog that I was caring for the fall.
Gotcha. That's
so right. We had 4 people and 3 dogs on the boat, and yeah, we were wise enough, as you put it, to go out there. And like you said, we'd been talking a couple days up to it. You were talking to Brian and myself, and we're like, well, we hope it stays thawed, enough to be able to go. And then we talked the night before. We're like, well, if we're going to do this, we better do this tomorrow, because by Wednesday or Thursday, this might freeze up, so we better go when we can go. And so we decided to make a day out of it. And like you said, plans change and the weather's fickle in North Dakota at times. And it was one of those where we better go when we can, or we're not going to be able to do this.
Mm-hmm. So over the course of 3 days, and if you've watched the episode this week, or if you haven't, sorry for giving you too much information here, but if you have, you'll notice that we hunted Mallard Island, and then we hunted I think we hunted Plots Land the second day, and then the third day we met up with Tyler Webster, and we hunted just a standard private piece of property in North Dakota. Tyler knocked on the door of this landowner. He said 16 years ago. And the guy said, sure, go ahead. And Tyler's been hunting it ever since. And he took us out there. And so we hunted the variety of different properties. But the main focus there was Mallard Island in the public hunting opportunities that exist around Lake Sakakawea, because Mallard is a wildlife management area. But there are, do you know how many hundreds of thousands of acres of public land that's managed by the Army Corps of Engineers around Sakakawea?
I couldn't even put a number on it. thousands upon hundreds of thousands of acres, I guess. It's basically almost all of the shoreline of the lake is core land that is open to public use.
And I think, our plan was to spend the entire hunting on some of those different places. But when North Dakota decides to go below zero and water decides to freeze, your plans of hunting from a boat change. But that's kind of the beauty of North Dakota, right? Is that even if your plans change, you can easily change with them. We did get to hunt on mallard, and then we did adjust, and we just hunted other public lands around the state. And then, like I said, we met up with a buddy who had a different opportunity as well. When somebody says, what's Mallard Island like, Jason, what do you tell them?
It's a trip to get there. It's an adventure in itself just to get there. And then when you get on there, it's pretty much a wildlife paradise. There's some trails on there that are used for, the game and fish to move equipment around and that, but it's not really gravel roads. And it's honestly a chunk of land. It's kind of shaped like a mallard's head or a feather. And it is about 2 miles wide at the widest point. It's about 4 miles long, and it is just a wildlife paradise. It's mixed grass prairie with food plots and tree groves and Russian olive patches along the shoreline. There's some beachy areas, and there's actually a couple small islands inside of sloughs on an island. So there's actually little wetland, diverse wetlands, little sloughs on the island. So you can hunt ducks on a slough on an island if you want to bring all that equipment out. Mm-hmm. And then like food plots that you're able to hunt through different, there's some sunflowers and there's corn and there's different grains. And then they hunted a bunch of, June berries, buffalo berries, other things like that. Basically brush and other berry producing plants that would feed the wildlife. It's just it's a wildlife paradise basically, which turns into a hunter's paradise.
Absolutely. A lot of people said, "Oh man, you're going to get your butt kicked out there." I didn't. I mean, there were definitely patches of cover that were overgrown, nasty, and thick, but I felt like that was just perfect. It was a good mixture. I mean, because there was also beautiful prairie grass on some of the hillsides too. So I felt like it's what I would have expected from, a standard draw that runs through North Dakota as well. Do you think that it's worse than some of the other cover?
No, I think the main concern about it is the massive area. Most people aren't used to having a 2 mile by 4 mile chunk of stuff where you can just walk and there is no fences. And I think most hunters out there that would venture out there are adventurous, and they're like, oh, look at that piece over there. And it keeps drawing you farther and farther away from where you started because the next piece looks so good and the next piece looks so good. And oh, there's a food plot there with some cover next to it. And you keep going, and all of a sudden you realize, man, I'm 2 miles away. Now I got to turn around, make a loop, and go 2 miles back. It's
right.
It's just, I think it's a boundless.
It is.
Boundless area of.
Yeah. Sorry for cutting you off. I didn't mean to do that, but I would say, I think we covered half of it. If I would, based on the direction we started to walk.
Yeah, we covered Yep, we went in almost midpoint on the island, and we made a little bit loop to the east, and then we walked almost to the north shore, and then we walked back west due to the wind and everything, and we walked all the way to the very far west end of the island, which actually that's the first time that I've ever been to the very tip of the west end of the island. And then we circled back around and we kind of zigzagged and came all the way back. But yeah, I hadn't been all the way to the very tip before. I'd been within about quarter mile of it, but I hadn't actually went all the way to the end, and which we did. We flushed some birds right at the end there. They flushed a little wild, and I chose not to shoot one because there's about a 40-foot cliff there that I didn't want the dogs to try and go down to get a bird. But yeah, we roughly covered half of it, and it took us a good part of the day because I mean we didn't just go on a death march. We kind of strategically went from cover to cover and through areas that we thought the dogs could pick up birds and kind of zigzag back and forth and gave them some time. And but yeah, it was a typical day on Mallard Island. If you know, and you can hunt it as hard as you want, or you can hunt it as light as you want. If you want to just stay along the shore and have somebody hopscotch with the boat ahead of you, and you walk along the shore, kind of push birds down to the boat and then just keep going. Or you can park the boat and just start hiking like we did.
It was pretty obvious to me that it was pretty obvious that there were other people that had hunted it before we got there. I mean, because in November, we're a few weeks into the season already. But the amount of hens to rooster ratio made it pretty obvious that it had been hit. There had been people that have hunted it, and they had done well on some of the roosters out there. We still saw plenty. How many people do you think get after that adventure hunt in a typical weekend or a week? I mean, is there somebody out there every day, do you think, or is it not quite that many people?
The first weekend or two, as long as the weather's nice, I know we've went out there and we've ran into some fair number of groups. I would say 50 to 100 people would hit it on a nice fair weather day, first couple weekends and that. And then after that, it drops off significantly. Like you said, or like you saw when we went out there during the middle of the week, when the temperatures drop and it's later in the season, not as many people have the drive or the passion to go out there. I mean, there are people that do it, but the numbers drop off significantly after the first couple weeks. And I've walked across the ice when we've had those cold years, like late in the season. On the east end, it's a little bit closer. On the east end, that's a little bit closer to the edge of the lake shore. So it's a little easier to cross, and sometimes that freezes up, but you have to have a really cold winter and be really careful when you're crossing the ice there. But we'll find some birds bunched up then too. But middle of the week and a couple weeks in the season, you don't run into that many people. It's kind of nice. You like you said, we had the entire island to ourselves that day.
Mm-hmm. That's right. If we wanted to hunt it an entire second day, I'm betting we would have had it to ourselves again, and we would have been able to walk ground that we had never even touched the first day. And that doesn't even include our plans. I mean, if we wanted, we could have spent weeks walking the shoreline of the river itself, which, like when you get into that part, into your country up there, a lot of people out east, I mean, you might take it for granted because this is what you know, but just the opportunities that you have, it's like the land of bird hunting opportunities. If I had to draw a bird hunt, and not just pheasants, I mean, we flush sharp-tailed grouse and pheasants on that island, but there were ducks in every bay. There's little bays that wrap around. There were ducks in each bay. Like you said, there was, ballpark 1 million snow geese. There were, I don't know how many thousands of Canadian geese mixed in. And you could have sat in one spot and probably, we're filming a television show, so that changes the dynamic of everything that we're doing out there. But if it's you and a buddy going out to this place, you could bring a bag of decoys. You could set up in the morning. You could easily shoot a full bag of different variety of different ducks. Mallards, divers, puddle ducks, geese, and then you can go walk with your dog. It's just one of those cool places. And it doesn't get hunted hard because you have to put in some effort. And the more that I hunt around the country, the more I realize that Jason, there's probably like 75% of the hunters out there don't want to put in the effort. So really, this is a type of place where only 1 out of every 4 hunters is probably going to want to strap on their boots, go the extra mile and hauling out a boat and make that happen. It just doesn't happen that often. Why do you think people don't want to put in the effort?
Part of it might be they don't have access to a boat or a friend that has access, or they're worried about beaching their boat somewhere, or like you said, there's so many other opportunities around the state that I can run over here and park my truck and go for a walk for a mile, and I might be able to get a bird or two, and I'm happy with that. Why do I need to load up a boat and everything else? And does my dog train to stay in a boat and everything else and cross and then beach and then stomp all over the place and then come back? And then, as you saw, your boat got muddy because you got to get people and dogs back in the boat. So then, you got a full day cleaning your boat back. And there's, some people don't want to put that much effort into it because they are satisfied with the amount of opportunities that we have around the state where you don't have to do that. So, and that's perfectly fine. I mean, if that's what they want to do. And like you said, Brian had a boat and you had a boat. I don't have a boat, so I don't get to go unless I have a friend crazy enough to go with me with a boat. So I think that's part of it, is just we have so many opportunities where you don't have to do that, sometimes that's a little more work than some people want to do, or they don't think 3 to 6 birds are worth it, or a mixed bag, like you said. But like you said, I just have another idea to do exactly what you said this fall again. Bring the decoys out there and hunt birds right away in the morning, and then go for a walk and come back and see what happens.
Yeah, I've been hunting up in North Dakota when I was in high school. The first hunting trip I ever took with a couple of my buddies, it was up to North Dakota, and I go back every year and every chance I can because I love all of those opportunities. I love the fact that I can grab a bag of decoys, I can do some scouting, I can knock on doors, I can get access, I can hunt land that's open to the public already. There's just the opportunities are just fantastic. We hunted probably, I don't know how many hours we put in, but we did include the part of the show when Answer went down with the seizure, and that really rocked all 3 of us. Had you ever had that happen before?
No, matter of fact, that was his. I've had one dog that had it one time many years ago, a different breed, so it wasn't even the same bloodline, same breed or anything. And that's the other thing about Mallard Island. You have to take care of yourself, and you have to take care of your dogs if you have dogs with you, and you have to watch the temperature and everything else. Like we said, you're 3/4 to a mile across water, plus you're somewhere out on the island. There's nobody out there to help you. You have to be prepared for anything that you come across, and that even shook me a little bit. We'd been hunting hard. It was probably 3/4 of the way through the day. I'd been giving them snacks, been giving them water, everything else, and all of a sudden Brian waved me over, and Answer was having a seizure, and I think it was low blood sugar because, like I said, it's a massive island, hard hunting dogs, and it was cool. It was definitely cool that day, but I never did find out what it was because we were down there. I called, we got back to the boat, while we took a break there, and then I walked him the rest of the way while you guys continued to hunt. I just walked off to the side with him back to the boat, and everything was fine. He came out of the seizure, called a couple of my vet friends, and kept him calm the rest of the day and everything else, and then took it easy for a while the next day, and he was back. He ate normal and everything, and I'm happy to report he's fully recovered, and he's not had another seizure since. Still the hard charging Answer that loves to go after birds and everything else, and
Right.
just happy as can be.
Well, you put him on a leash, essentially, a check cord there, and just kept him on it for the rest of the walk back. But that dog would have hunted again if you'd have let him go. He wanted to get back
Oh,
out
he
there
was.
20 minutes
Yeah,
later.
we took 15 minutes there and got him some electrolytes and got him some honey and a little bit of dog food and got him some water and let him chill out, and he got back up, and I leashed him up right away and started walking him. And like I said, I got off to the side from you guys a little bit, and he was kind of giving me the stink eye, like, okay, Dad, I'm back in the game. And he was, especially when possum, I think that's when you got your sharp tail out there. And he actually, from our angle, it was a good angle we had. We saw the bird come up and we saw you shoot it, and it dropped, and he just about took me off my feet because he wanted to go out. He wanted to run over there and get that bird for you guys. And he was pulling pretty hard on the leash all the way back to the boat, and he was not happy with me. But, that's as much as he was ready to go. After an episode like that, you got to take care of your animals, as tough as it is not to let them go run and do what they want to love. You got to make sure that they're healthy for the rest of the day and everything else. And we took it easy back to the boat, and then everything was fine after that.
Yep, it was. Yeah, I do specifically remember we started walking and possum went quite a ways ahead of us and locked up on point, and we got a beautiful rooster right afterwards. So it kind of helped lift our spirits up a little bit. I would estimate, in the amount of time we spent on Mallard Island, we probably flushed. Jason, would I be wrong if I said we probably flushed 200, 250 birds, pheasants that day?
No, I don't think you'd be wrong at all. I was guessing the same thing in that 250 range.
Yeah. And we left with one.
Granted.
One.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. There was a lot of wild flushes. Like you said, those birds have been hunted quite a bit, and they know the game. And especially when you go down some of those tree rows, if you don't have enough people to get around to the end of them to be a blocker, sometimes them wily old birds that have been hunted a few times, they know they can run to the end, and then they got to start flushing. And like you said, with the colder temperatures, and it was windy for a while, and then it kind of slacked off, so they could hear us coming from quite a distance too. So
yeah,
they know the game. They know the game.
I would have liked to have been there on the first snowfall of the year. We were on the third snowfall of the year, and I think that made a difference too. And then you look at some of these tree rows and you say, all right, that goes about a mile or close to it, 3/4 of a mile, and say one of us has to either leave the pack here, and the three of us, and run, like basically make like a 1.5 mile loop and try to come in and post on the end to keep them from running out, or we just kind of see what happens. So those are decisions that we always make. And we're a mini army there with only 3 guys and the cameraman trying to pull off that shoot there. So more birds got away, but that's absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with that. Still just the opportunity to go out there, to me, that's just one of those hunts. It was on my list of places to walk one day and hunt one day. And thanks to you and Brian, we were able to make that happen. I suspect there will be a few others that give it a shot after they watch the episode, because they're wild birds. Anybody can hunt it, and it's a cool place, right? So when you see that, you say, yeah, I'm gonna try that one day. And I hope that you do.
Yeah.
And if you're listening right now, I hope you give it a shot too. But if you don't, they're like Jason was saying, there's hundreds of thousands of other acres nearby that you can do the exact same thing that we did that day. Maybe smaller islands on Sakakawea, or just the shoreline itself. We've done other episodes out there too, and we could really, Jason, we could probably spend the entire fall hunting season up there and film an entire season of shows, just never going to the same place twice. Do you ever hunt the same places 2 times in a season, or do you just go and just all of the land that you have access to?
No, I still have some favorite hunting holes that we hunt a few different times, but I try and spread it out 3 weeks to a month between, just because I want to give them birds time to settle. And obviously there's other people that hunt that area too. So I don't want to just keep pounding the same area. But like you said, there's a lot of public land out here, and similar to what Tyler's done is, do your homework, find out who the landowners, knock on the door, preferably not the day that you plan to hunt, plan ahead a little bit and go there in the summertime or in the dead of winter when you don't have anything else to do, knock on some doors and offer some help with some stuff around the farm or what have you, and make those landowner relationships, and it opens up even more. I mean, there's plenty of public land to hunt on too, and quality public land, not just, wasteland out there. There's good quality public land out there, but there, it's kind of nice to get onto some private land once in a while too. But no, we try a lot of new places, and obviously, and since meeting Tyler and stuff more too, I've expanded even more and just like, why not? Let's go try that piece. Let's go try that piece, and just get out your Onyx and look for that public map or public land, or get out your North Dakota Game and Fish plots guidebook and find those plots and go out there and get some eyes on them and put some boot leather down and go chase some stuff.
Right. How would you rate your plots program out there? Are you satisfied with it? Are there properties that you say that do you think the landowners could do a better job making it into land that birds would actually want to live on?
Yeah, it's kind of, they're managed for all wildlife. It'd be nice to see a little bit more done for upland game specifically, but that's, they're trying to manage it for different opportunities in different parts of the state, and it is private land, so it depends on what the landowner is allowed. Some of the plots land is cereal crops and other stuff that are cut, and then you have the opportunity to hunt waterfowl on it, and then there's other stuff that is more river bottom or coulee bottom that would be more for some of the big game or fur bears, and then there's grasslands and other plots of pasture, prairie land. So it's quite a diverse. I think overall the Game and Fish is doing about as good as they could with it, and there's different levels of the program and that I'm not well versed in, but there's some that's more geared towards farmland and some more towards total wildlife management. And overall, I'm pretty satisfied. I mean, they have some very nice land out there that, the landowner's have been gracious enough to enroll their acreage into those programs. And I think the Game and Fish is doing about as good as they can do to manage it with the, resources and funds that they have to manage those properties.
Yeah, I would agree with that. My experience on the plots has been really positive over the last. How long has it been? The plots program.
Honestly, I don't know. A very long time.
Yeah, it's been there for a while.
15, 20 years or so.
It's something that has not been around a long time. Last year, you told me a lot about this new. You put a lot of effort into helping the state pass a law that allows tracking dogs to find wounded big game. You wanted that to pass. You put in a lot of effort. What was your role there?
I was basically one of 4 main people, and we had a lot of support from other people around the state, but the 4 of us worked together. 3 out of the 4 of us own Deutsch Drahthaars. That's a breed of dog, that Answer is and that. And they do the German testing system. We also do the testing system. The German testing system, portions of those are tracking, and even more specifically, blood tracking. And several years ago, we were sitting around talking about it, and we just brought it up like, man, this would be cool to do this with our dogs. And somebody said, we don't think this is legal. We're like, well, let's find out. So we confirmed with the Game and Fish that it was not legal to use your dog to blood track or track a wounded game animal. And we kind of thought, why not? Because over in Europe and all that, it is almost a requirement for you to have access to a tracking dog to aid in the recovery of a, we're hunters. We all know that occasionally a bad shot is made. We don't want it to happen, but occasionally it happens. Why not have every tool in the toolbox at your dispense, to be able to recover that animal? It's less waste of game, and then you're not out there taking more game if you lose that one. So we started a grassroots effort, several of us, to try and get this legalized. And we went through United Blood Trackers. That's a national organization. We got support from them, and they're out there to help any state where this is not legal. We used a bunch of their resources, and we started calling a bunch of people, and we started calling representatives and senators, and we finally had one respond to us, and that was the legislative session before this one, and it was too late in the game. We weren't able to get a bill submitted that late, so it was kind of a blessing in disguise, because it gave us 2 more years to educate the game and fish and educate the public. We had a couple sit-down meetings with the game and fish and hammered out some stuff, what they didn't like, what we didn't like, and just opened the conversation with them, basically. And, because the biggest hang-up is people think that we're trying to use dogs to chase down animals use dogs to help harvest big game. And that's not the case. You don't pull the dog out of the box until after the shot and everything else. And our law, you can't have a weapon while you're using the dog. So there's no chance of, chasing deer with dogs and then shooting them. That's not the case. We spent 2 years going to Game and Fish has Game and Fish advisory meetings across the state in the spring and the fall, where they invite the public to come and ask questions. They talk about upcoming stuff, and then they invite you to ask questions, or people bring up items. So several of us across the state hit those for 2 years and spoke with the crowds there to let the public know about it and reach out to even more game and fish people. And then we were put in contact with a representative, Matt Ruby from Minot, and he heard us out. And he said, that makes a lot of sense. So we wrote up a bill, and he brought the bill draft to the bill writers, and they kicked it back to us. And there's a couple things we didn't like in it, and a couple things Game and Fish didn't. So we did some revisions. And when it came back, Game and Fish was satisfied. And as a state agency, they said, we are neither supporting nor opposing this. We'll just be at the legislative hearings to answer questions. And several of us went down, and since we had a representative, it had to go through the House first. And we ended up with a unanimous pass on the House side. And then it went over to the Senate, and Senate hearing committee, we had a unanimous pass. And then the Senate, we had a majority pass. And then it went to the full legislature, and we had a majority pass. And then it went to the governor's desk, where he signed it. And as of August 1st of last year, it was legal to use dogs to aid in the recovery of wounded big game in North Dakota.
Well, good for you for spending so much time to make that happen. I know it's a lot of work, but a lot of the good changes that happen on the ground are because of people just like you, that they know something that's good or helpful or right, and they put in the effort to work with their legislators and make that change happen. So this past fall, I know when we were hunting, you talked about some of the phone calls you got. People could call you directly, or where did they or who did they call if they had a deer that was wounded that they couldn't find? Was there a certain number available?
This is actually, you don't have to be licensed or anything in North Dakota. So anybody out there that has a dog that you would think would be able to do this, you can do this. Obviously, if you train for it and everything else would be much better, but if you have a dog sitting on the couch and you can't find your deer and you want to take your dog out there and stick its nose in the ground, by the blood trail, there's nothing saying you can't do that in North Dakota right now. So as far as that goes, we don't really have numbers. We did set up a Facebook page and we promoted that. It's ND Tracking Dog Group, and people could message that. And between the four of us, we'd manage it. And we have a long list of people that have contacted us, or friends of ours, or associates that we know that have dogs that are able to do this. And we put a list out. Like you said, it was first year being legal, we were kind of short on trackers. Nothing says, like you said, nothing says you can't go out there with your bird dog or anybody else's dog either and try it. But we set up a network of people all across the state, from north to south to east to west. And we had a tracking list of about 20 people, and they could either message the Facebook page, or if they knew one of us, they could call us and we'd try and network between us and get somebody out there. There was a few tracks that we just were not able to, somebody was not available, whether, weekend, and, we're all volunteers. Nobody's getting paid to do this or anything necessarily. But I think we had 86 requests for tracks, and we had requests for people in Minnesota. We had requests for South Dakota and Montana, besides North Dakota, that had contacted us, people across the border. And I know one of our trackers went over to Montana, and I almost went down to South Dakota, even crazy as I am way up in the northwest part of the state. I just about zipped down to South Dakota.
Yeah, that's commitment. I like it.
Just about did, but actually ended up talking to the guy some more and gave him some advice and extended the track some, and then he eventually lost it. And then we had several trackers that live on the basically in the Red River Valley. We had a few requests coming out of Minnesota because Minnesota just legalized it also. So we had a couple guys go over there. We actually have a couple people in Minnesota that we know that are in the Red River Valley all the way over to Alexandria area. And we put them in contact with some people that requested. We were able to recover. We weren't able to go on all 86 of those tracks, but we were able to recover over 10 deer. I think it was 14 or 15 deer that would have been lost. And then honestly, most of the other deer that we tracked was either proof that we either saw the animal or the dogs tracked them for so long that they pretty much proved that it was a minor wound.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, even the gut shot, we only tracked one deer that was gut shot that we didn't find. The rest of them they found. The rest of them, people probably hit a little bit higher, a little far forward, and more of a muscle type hit than they thought. Everybody thinks they makes a good shot, but I've done it myself where, no, I know I hit them good. And well, no, I didn't. But there was over 50 animals that we concluded that were not mortally wounded by the time the dogs caught up to them. The deer either jumped up and left, ran ahead. And at that point, you have to stop with the dog. The dog and the tracker have to turn around, and the hunter can go retrieve their weapon and continue, because we're no longer recovering a mortally wounded animal. Now you're chasing a live wounded animal that we can't continue with the dogs. The hunter can continue at that point, but the dog can no longer continue if they get up and run that well.
Well, I commend you for your efforts in making that possible up there. I'm sure it's going to grow as more people find out that it's an option. I know in Minnesota, where I live, it just passed last year as well. I can see it being something that a lot of hunters use, and they should, right? I mean, if you take a shot, you should do everything in your power to retrieve that animal. And
Absolutely.
dogs give hunters just a giant increase in opportunities to be able to find that. And like you said, if you're in Germany, you don't get to go hunting unless you have access to a dog that can go find that game. That's part of your obligation when you go out into the woods to go hunt. So I envision that growing in the next couple of years. I don't see why it wouldn't. Nothing but positives that I've heard come out of it. I'm sure you could probably agree with that based on what you've seen out there. But let's talk about the current season coming up. I know there's a lot of people that are really looking forward to getting back out in the field. We're not far away from grouse season opening up. I know in North Dakota that's in September. And what are you seeing on the ground? I know you're in Minot, but you probably venture around a little bit as well. Are birds? Everybody I've talked to, the excitement is pretty dang high for one, the great winter that everybody had, two, the great nesting, just the amount of birds that we should hopefully see this fall. Are you feeling the same way up there?
Yep. Heard a lot of pheasants crowing this spring. Been seeing some nice broods of sharptails. Even seen a couple broods of partridge. I haven't been out bouncing around quite as much as some people on that, but I have seen some pheasants, seen some sharptails, seen some partridge out there, and just like earlier up in this part of the state, a few weeks ago, we had some heavy rains and stuff that just as the water holes started dropping and that, they filled right back up, and actually saw some fuzzy ducklings the last couple days where I don't know if the hen lost her first batch or I don't know if some of them double clutch or not, but there is ducks everywhere. There's all kinds of Canadians everywhere. There's even, believe it or not, a few miles west of me, there is 6 snow geese, 2 blues and 4 snows that are still hanging around in a slough. I haven't been close enough to see any goslings or anything with them, but they've been in a certain slough all year. They never finish flying back north again. So that was kind of odd to see, but no, it's definitely the duck factory this year, and the sharptails and pheasants and even the partridge are looking pretty good. I'm pretty excited about this year.
Oh gosh, I know. I cannot wait to get back out there. Do you have any, I don't want to call them sleeper spots in North Dakota, but places that probably get overlooked by a lot of hunters that probably shouldn't?
Yeah, a lot of the plot stuff that is away from the highways, if you've got to take 10 or 15 miles of gravel to get to them, they just don't see as much of the traffic. And away from the big towns, there's some really quality stuff out there, but they're out away from things. There's some really nice plot stuff out there, some of the waterfall management areas that you can upland hunt on. And then another one that people forget about, or they focus more on the big game opportunities, is the Forest Service land, the national grasslands out towards most of it. There is some in the southeast part of the state, but mostly on the western edge of the state there in the Badlands, what they consider the Badlands. Mm-hmm. There is some quality sharptail hunting out there. Yeah, you got to dodge a few cactuses, and if it's warm out, you got to worry about snakes a little bit, but there's some prairie rattlers out there, but it's not the danger that everybody's scared of. There's not a snake around every bush, and it does happen, but most of those are non-lethal if they are struck. I've talked to a few vets out there, and very rarely does a dog die from a rattlesnake bite, might be out of commission for a couple of days, which I understand for out of state hunters that takes their whole weekend away, but it's not that common. And cactuses can be dealt with. You can run boots or you can pull the spines or that, but there are some quality opportunities out on those national grasslands for some sharp-tailed grouse and even some pheasants if you get towards some of that stuff that's next to the farmlands and stuff.
It's funny you say that, because that's one of the areas I'm researching right now for this coming season. I'm thinking about, just with COVID and everything that's, been going on, I'm feeling like a traveling bird camp, just hauling the camper and visiting some places where, there's no interaction with anybody else. And I had the Badlands on my list that I've been researching. So I may be able to give you an update on that the next time we speak. We'll find out if that's where I end up landing out there, but I've always been intrigued by it. I've been intrigued about hunting Mallard Island. I've been intrigued by places that I've never been before, and I just hope that I'm able to continue doing that. I appreciate you taking the time to join me on that hunt out there. It was a real pleasure to spend a couple days in the uplands with you, even though you had to get in my boat and ride across 4-foot rollers at right around 0 degrees. It was definitely a hunt that I won't forget. I hope that if you watch the show and the viewers that were able to watch it, I hope that they can experience, like we can't put that cold into TV. And I think if we did, people would change the channel quick just to feel how raw North Dakota can be. But we did our best to really portray what we really experienced out there. And it was definitely a hunt I recommend doing. And again, looking into some of the other opportunities that are out there as well. So Jason, I thank you for taking the time today. I wish you a great hunting season. Hopefully you find a few wounded deer for some people, and that continues to grow as well. But more than anything, I hope you enjoy the time in the field with your buddies and your bird dogs this year.
Thank you. You too. Hopefully you get to hunt all in places that you want to, and we'll continue watching the show. And thank you for everything you guys do and portray it as it is, real wild places. So
it's that's what we live for, right? And we'll keep trying to do our best. So thank you very much. This episode of the Flush Podcast was brought to you by North Dakota Tourism. North Dakota offers bird hunters, like we talked about, a variety of birds to hunt and a variety of places to hunt them. I've been hunting in North Dakota for most of my life, and I continue to go back because, in my opinion, it's one of the greatest places in North America to hunt on a fall day. The only problem is that some days there just are not enough hours of daylight. Do you hunt ducks in the morning, pheasants, huns, and sharpies in the afternoon, or pheasants, huns, and sharpies in the morning and ducks in the afternoon? And of course, if you bring a boat, you can catch walleyes on all of their potholes and Lake Sakakawea. North Dakota's tagline is North Dakota Legendary, and it's obviously a fitting title. Their hunting and fishing opportunities are legendary. Next week, we'll be back with a very, very interesting guest. I'm not going to give any more information away, but I hope you'll join us to find out who it is and just what we're going to be talking about. We'll catch you next time on another episode of the Flush Podcast.